Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. First hazardous weather graphic, we've got a wind chill warning out for the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, and especially around Eagle, or anywhere the wind's blowing up there over 15 miles an hour is in the warning zone. And Eagle, winds 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, temperatures in the mid-20s today, and getting wind chills down to 60 below zero. And that remains out until, I believe, noon tomorrow, Monday morning, or into Monday morning anyway. And 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts expected to continue through Monday morning and then diminish in the afternoon. And then here on the north side of the Alaska range, you've got a wind chill advisory for wind chills running 35 to 50 below zero with gusty east winds. And for northern Panhandle, actually near White Pass, wind chill advisory there for tonight into tomorrow morning for wind chills to, say, 40, 45 below zero with gusty winds there. And then out to the west, we've got a blizzard warning out for St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait coast after kind of a break earlier today. Coming back down, more snow and winds gusting 45 miles an hour moving into the area, and that's going to continue tonight and into a portion of tomorrow, or through early tomorrow, anyway, into the morning, and could see 2 to 4 more inches of snow, and with those winds gusting 40 to 50 miles an hour, that could create whiteout conditions, at least visibility is under 1/4 of a mile. And then just on, well, actually it's under the label up there, there's a winter weather advisory out for the Galbraith Lake, Anatuvik, Adigan Pass areas, and Franklin Bluffs, and for tomorrow, later tonight and tomorrow, for snow and blowing snow, mostly just winds gusting to 40, 45 miles an hour, creating blowing snow, reducing visibility to a half mile or less there without not looking for any new snow to fall. And moving on, satellite imagery. You can see this slow-moving low-pressure area, still fairly strong, but it is slowly weakening, tracking up across the Russian Far East. And you can see the front pushing in with good westerly winds and west-southwest flow across the Bering Sea. Actually northwesterly out here, pulling more cold air out of the Russian Far East is evident from the cloud pattern there. Turns westerly across the Pribilofs with St. Paul, St. George seeing gusts 40, 50 miles an hour today, and then goes southwest, pushing the front inland. Probably a little bit of light snow across south central Alaska today, less than about 1/10 of an inch or no more than 1/4 inch around, or at least here at the Anchorage Forecast Office. And then Iliamna, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow there, so it was a little bit heavier there. And Sparivon and Bethel had about 1 to 2 inches of snow. Otherwise, those are the most significant precipitation amounts I saw, and that's spilling into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. And actually about 1/3 of an inch of precipitation fell in Kodiak, which fell in the form of snow up until about 5 a.m. this morning, and then since then it fell as rain, so it was kind of a heavy wet snow, at least at the end, and it's now since stopped raining with the band pushing off to the east there, and temperature around 40 degrees. Otherwise, not too bad here, the Alaska Peninsula, some scattered showers, rain or snow depending on your elevation. And then a weak system out here bringing some snow showers, or actually rain showers to Adak and Atka, and then back into the snow shower and the colder air out at Shimia. Otherwise, southeast coast not looking bad. Offshore flow, strong high pressure over the Yukon Northwest Territories, keeping it dry there. You can see the northerly winds continuing to blow, but not at warning levels. And now the only wind chill advisory, as I mentioned, up near White Pass through tonight into tomorrow. And with the clouds come a little bit milder temperatures with them, as we'll see in the forecast temperatures a little bit later, but still well below zero, although the winds did bring the temperature up. The wind chill fell, so we have the warnings out for the east side there. And one more, there we go, on the chart today. Weak low form or move south of Kodiak Island, actually weakening as it tracked eastward here. Main front right through here. You can see the gradient tightening up over the eastern part of the state here, bringing those winds up with it, and temperatures remaining well below zero. Mostly clear southeast coast. A little bit of maybe flurries developed here on the eastern coast near Dry Bay, I believe it is, or southwest of Yakutat, but northwest of Elephant Cove. Anyway, the light snow, breaking out the snow showers, another batch coming around there with that gradient, and this low tracking northeast. That's keeping the St. Lawrence Island area, Bering Strait coast. That's where we have the, went back to the blizzard warning there for tonight into tomorrow. And for tonight, that'll swing through and temperatures will fall once again with the flow coming out of off the land there in Russia and then coming across, picking up moisture, dropping some snow in St. Lawrence Island. We'll see blowing snow conditions even into the western interior here, northward to the Alaska Range. Could see maybe 1 or 2 inches falling on the upslope areas of the western mountains there, DeLong Mountains, Brooks Range, and maybe some snow getting up to the western Arctic coast, cutting off about Point Lay, so Wainwright, Atchison, and definitely areas to the east. Won't see any snow at all, but getting a little breezy there through the Brooks Range passes. High pressure, less gradient tonight, so actually the wind's starting to come down for the east side there and staying breezy over the northern panhandle. And for the outlook on Monday, high pressure kind of taking over the Bering Sea out here, next ahead of the strong system out over Kamchatka Peninsula. So just some isolated snow showers along the southwest coast. A weak system could bring some light snow to the Pribilofs or just to your south there, and should stay north possibly of the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, areas of light snow, leftover moisture here with that dissipated front in the interior. Light snow, nothing really significant at all. And southwest winds off the Brooks Range make for a VFR day for the eastern North Slope and Arctic coast. And again, another dry, mostly sunny day, chilly here for the panhandle. Wind's not too bad though. And then moving on to Tuesday, high pressure strongly builds over the Kuskokwim Bay area and Bristol Bay here, extending northward. So really the entire state under the domination of high pressure between the two centers here, one in the Yukon. Weak disturbance coming over the top may bring some light snow and a little bit of a pickup in the winds there for the eastern Arctic coast. Could result in a winter weather advisory and isolated snow showers over the southeast interior. Another sunny day for the panhandle, temperatures below freezing. Big storm, strong front brings kind of a change here into the Bering Sea, at least to the Aleutians there. Looks like storm force winds, high-end gales for the Adak-Atka area with, of course, south to north flow, warming temperatures, so snow changing to rain. And for lows tonight, anywhere from 25 to 45 below eastern interior, milder on the eastern Arctic coast. Teens to lower 20s, southwest coast, upper 20s for the Pribilofs, mid-30s for the Aleutians, and quite a range there across the panhandle. Highs tomorrow, teens to near 20 for the southeast coast, and taking a look at the lows the following morning, minus 25 in the Copper River.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to flying weather. First graphic for tomorrow morning showing IFR here. A couple of, looks like 2 separate surges, one right through here coming well into the central interior and into the Prince William Sound, western Copper River Basin, up along the western Alaska Range, and the other one there over the northern Bering Sea, slipping on up across the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, marginal VFR here, central Bering Sea down to the central Aleutians and along and north of the Alaska Range, Fox Islands. Starting out VFR for Kodiak Island, VFR for the Panhandle. Afternoon stays VFR for the southeast coast and even off the coast, North Gulf Coast, Copper River Basin, all the way to the Alaska Range. VFR conditions including Kodiak Island, marginal VFR southeast Bering, Bristol Bay. IFR here, central interior, southern slopes of the central western Brooks Range, the Long Mountains on up to just south of Point Lay, but includes Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, Kivalina, possibly Kotzebue, Selawik, Ambler, marginal or IFR for St. Lawrence Island. And then for Tuesday morning, Everything kind of shifts more up to the northeast here with IFR holding together here over the central and eastern interior in areas, and IFR holding, or I'm sorry, VFR holding for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, IFR Central Coast west side, VFR Seward Peninsula, marginal St. Lawrence Island, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, into Bristol Bay, and looking really sharp here for Kodiak Island, starting out VFR over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, but lower conditions with the next system pushing eastward to roughly Adak late Monday night, and by Tuesday afternoon, that whole band shifts eastward to Atka. Marginal VFR now bearing down on Nikolsky. VFR to the east, Pribilos, Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, Nunivak Island, St. Matthew Island, VFR just to your south, otherwise IFR from Zavunga on up to Nome and Wales. Northwest coast, VFR, that narrow band of VFR down into the toward Tanana and expands here. All VFR, southern Alaska, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, Panhandle staying VFR, a couple more days, or marginal VFR off the coastline. And for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan will be marginal tomorrow. And Lake Clark and Merrill, same forecast, marginal VFR, possible IFR on the western entrances at times throughout the day. And then for rainy, marginal VFR, same pattern here, possible IFR in that western entrance, otherwise marginal. Windy looks kind of marginal, as does Isabel, occasionally marginal, Mentasta, marginal, and Tanita, though, VFR. Portage, though, back into the marginal zone, and Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR possible. And for the freezing levels, at the surface here, the 2,000 foot way down here south, just barely on the chart. Otherwise, the surface well south of even the Queen Charlotte's, but back up in toward the Barren Islands, Shelikof Strait, and a little farther to the south than it was this morning here. Now it's south of St. Matthew Island, but still north of the Pribilofs, 2,000 feet, even here, almost off the chart. And for icing, look for areas of light mixed icing, which includes rime, and central Aleutians, mostly over the Bering Sea here, possibly north of Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, and then that moisture with the frontal boundary pushing in areas of mostly light, but could be some isolated considerable moderate rime icing here from the North Gulf Coast on northwestward, be mostly through this area. This diminishes as you head southwest, and that doesn't even reach the Panhandle. Jet stream, upper level ridge holding right through this area here. It's trying to trying to give way there, but not quite doing it. So we still have northerly flow at about 50 knots across the Panhandle. Kind of a split in the flow here, ridging popping up out over the western Bering, and one branch 70 knots to the southeast. This one coming around the upper high over the eastern Arctic coast. 9,000 foot winds, westerly flow across the Bering Sea, 20 to 40 knots, turning southwest into the interior, 25 to 30, lighter toward the east, lighter for the Panhandle, and for 3,000 feet. Shaping up like this, high center, really dominating the eastern Aleutians there, and westerly flow over the top of that high, and on the south side of that Wrangell Island low. West winds 25 to 35, light for the Panhandle, turbulence looking something like this, none for the southeast coast, occasional moderate chop, western Brooks Range, and Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island.
Ahoy, Acta Cadets, and welcome to the Okeanos Explorer. I'm Debbie, and I'm an ocean explorer. I work for NOAA, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Together with many other people, I work on this ship and we explore the deep sea. How do we do that? Let's go find out.
Octonauts, let's do this. Yow!
The pressure in the ocean is so great humans can't go there, so we send a special robot. Octocadets, meet Deep Discoverer, our special robot for ocean exploration. And this is Chris. He works with Deep Discoverer. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Debbie.
Can you tell us about what Deep Discoverer does?
Sure. So this is Deep Discover, and today we're going to take Deep Discover up to 4 miles down to the ocean floor so you can see what Deep Discoverer sees.
And how do we do that?
We do that by using these powerful cameras and powerful lights.
That's neat. And what is that?
And this is our manipulator arm, and we use this arm to take biological and geological samples that we store up front in these boxes, and so that we can bring them to the surface so scientists can analyze them.
Wow, isn't that cool, Octocadets? Wow! Now that we know more about the special robot that explores the seafloor, let's find out more about the ship. Octocadets, let's do this. Now let's find out what we do with D2's video. Come along. This is the control room. A lot of things about D2 happen in here. Behind me you see the pilots. They steer D2 on the seafloor. And over here we have scientists. Hi, Steve and Stacy.
Hi, this is Steve and I'm Stacy and we are marine biologists.
Can you tell us about the work you do here?
We actually look at the videos collected by the robots and we try to identify organisms along with other scientists on the shore.
What are you looking at right now?
We're actually looking at a sea star.
That's so awesome, thank you. Now let's look at how we make maps of the seafloor.
Excellent, Quasi. A good map helps you to get to places you've never been.
We also have a scientist on board who makes maps of the seafloor. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Debbie.
Can you tell us about your work?
Sure. My job on the ship is to make maps of the ocean floor. We do this by sending sound from the bottom of the ship. It echoes off the seafloor and comes back to the ship. And then from that, we can make maps like this. So this is what it would look like if you were able to drain the water out of the ocean and actually see what the landscape looked like down there. We use these maps to give the vehicles a place to dive, and they explore further, just like Octonauts do.
Status report, Dashi.
We're right on course, Captain.
So earlier we learned that D2 picks things up from the seafloor with his manipulator arm. Let's find out what we do with those samples. This is the wet lab, and Megan spends a lot of time here. Megan, can you tell us about your work?
I am the sample data manager, so when the ROV comes up, we go out and we collect the samples from the ROV and we bring them in here. And we try to record as much information about them as possible, everything from the details about what they look like to the environment conditions where they were found. How cold was it, for example? Then we come in and we take imagery using this microscope, and we take pictures using this camera as well. And then after we get all the pictures taken and we're ready, we prepare them for shipping to other scientists and museums so more science can be done, such as the squat lobster, this cup coral as well.
And what is that?
This is a piece of coral, or several pieces of coral, that we think might actually be a new species. So we are going to send it out for a comparison to existing species to see if we discovered something new.
Wow, you have a really cool job.
Thank you.
Fascinating. I've read about this, but I've never actually seen it.
An important part of how we explore the ocean is keeping in touch with scientists and Octocadets on shore. Let's go see how we do that. Rosemary, could you tell the Octocadets a little about what that dish does?
Sure. My name is Lieutenant Rosemary Abbott. I'm the operations officer aboard the Okeanos Explorer, and that is our VSAT. It stands for Very Small Aperture Terminal, and inside that satellite dome is a very powerful dish antenna that allows us to communicate with shore and share video in real time. The technology is called telepresence.
Wow, that is so interesting. Thank you, Rosemary. Now I'm getting really hungry. Let's go to the kitchen and talk about food. This is the ship's kitchen, also known as the galley. And this is Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Debbie.
Michael is the chief steward on this ship, and he keeps 49 people fed for 3 weeks at a time. Michael, how do you do that?
With a lot of care and with the help of 3 crew members. I have myself, the chief steward, a chief cook, and a second cook. And we just do it with a lot of love and care and make sure that everybody's happy and well fed. We use up to 150 dozen eggs per trip, up to 100 gallons of milk, a lot of veggies and fruits, a lot of snacks. Everybody's very pleased with what we usually put out. We also make sure that we do it in a loving way, in a sanitary way, in a safe way that keeps everybody from getting any tummy aches.
I'm about to enter the ship's bridge. It's like the Octopod's headquarters.
Octonauts to the HQ.
Ahoy, Captain.
Ahoy, Debbie.
Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Octocadets, meet Eric Johnson, the commander of the ship. Eric, can you tell us about what you do up here?
Absolutely. Hello, Octocadets. My name's Eric Johnson. I'm an Corps officer, and I'm the captain of the Okeanos Explorer. Welcome to my office. This is where we drive the ship. This is where we control the operations. We run the propellers that are underneath us in the back to the wheel up here at the front, which is where we steer. It's a pretty cool job. It's very exciting, and it's pretty beautiful around here as well.
So, Octocadets, now you know a little bit about the ship and how we explore the deep sea. I hope you enjoyed our time together. I'll see you next time.
Debbie, safety first.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at today's sea ice analysis, of course, with the winds, south winds, west-southwest winds, obviously it's going to beat the ice edge back to the east and northeast, and actually getting some areas pulling off, open water showing up as the ice pulls off the north shore of St. Lawrence Island. Also along the north side of the Seward Peninsula, Shishmaref, for example, seeing some open areas known as polynyas forming there due to the winds pushing the ice off. And for the coastal water forecast, light winds on the north coast tomorrow. The Panhandle east at 10 knots, seas 8 to 10 feet. And north to northeast winds 10 to 15 knots on the south coast. Clarence Strait northwest at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Small craft advisories, Stevens Passage north 25 and north at 30 knots with 6-foot seas for Lynn Canal. And for Tuesday, Lynn Canal, north winds 30 knots, gusts 45 knots, so still pretty breezy there in the north, and Stevens Passage north at 20, even lighter for Clarence Strait, north winds 15. And the south coast, east winds 20 to 25 knots, seas 9 to 10 feet, east-northeast winds 15 to 20 for the north coast, and seas 7 to 8 feet. Prince William Sound, northwest 20 tomorrow, 3-foot seas, north at 20 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, there around Middleton Island, 7-foot seas. Small craft advisories as you head west here, northwest 25, Barren Islands, a tad stronger, northwest 30, seas 10 feet, west 30 knots, Kamishak Bay, and 8-foot seas, otherwise Cook Inlet, northwest 10 to 15. Outlook for Tuesday, northern Cook Inlet, north at 10, 20 knots south of the Forelands with seas at 5 feet. Full gales for the Kamishak Bay area, northwest winds at 40 knots, right across the Barren Islands as well, seas 10 to 12 feet. And then small craft advisories for the western North Gulf Coast and the east side and Prince William Sound, looking at north to northeast winds at 20 for the day on Tuesday with 3 to 6-foot seas. Kodiak Island, west winds 25 knots, seas 6 to 9 feet. Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, west winds 20 knots, seas 6 to 11 feet. Castle Cape to Sitkinak, same thing, west at 20, 9-foot seas. And gales for Kodiak Island on Tuesday, northwest 35 knots right across all the islands, and also gale force winds here from Akiak to maybe, Castle Cape in that zone. gale force winds, but beginning to come down as you head west-southwest here. Small craft advisory, south side of the peninsula at 25 knots, and top side northeast at 20, northwest 20 for Bristol Bay. And for Monday, for the Fox Islands, not too bad wind-wise, southwest 10 to 15, 15-knot winds on the Bering Sea side of the islands, southwest 15 to 28, Akanatka, and southeast 20 knots for Kiska and Amchitka, pick up about 30 knots, shimmy and too. And then we got storms, again, with that next strong front pushing into the Aleutians here and even stronger up over the Bering Sea, western Bering, but storm force winds with that with 20 to 23 foot seas, and winds also coming up late in the day for Adak and Atka, just under storm force at 45 knots from the southeast. Unmak Island, Nikolsky, southeast winds increasing to 40 knots, and Unalaska Island, easterlies 25 to 30 with 7 foot seas. And for Monday, southwest coast, west 25 knots, 20 to 25 knots, southwest 15 for the Pribilofs, west 30 St. Matthew Island and St. Lawrence Island. Tuesday, southwest 20 St. Lawrence Island area. Lighter and more variable here for the southwest coast, called down to 15 knots. Kind of the calm before the storm out here to the west. See the southeast winds, St. Matthew Island, northern Bering Sea, coming up to 45 knots in the afternoon. Pribilofs increasing to 30 knots, seas building to 9 feet. And up to the north, eastern Boulevard Sea coast, south to southwest, 15 to 20 knots, south 20 knots for the central coast, and south winds stronger, Point Lay down toward Cape Thompson at 30 knots, gale warnings, south 35 knots, Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, and southwest brisk wind advisories at 30 knots there on down to Wales. And the outlook for Tuesday, Wales to Cape Thompson, west of 15, and then brisk wind advisories here for the western coast from Cape Thompson all the way up to the central coast. Actually, brisk wind advisories for the entire Arctic coast on Tuesday from the west and southwest. And for tonight, this low tracking east-northeastward now continues to weaken, but holds together enough. We got blizzard warning out tonight into early tomorrow for St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait coast. Gusty winds 40 miles an hour tonight create wind chill warning for the eastern interior, especially around Eagle along the Yukon River. And then lingering snow showers in the central interior tomorrow, and there's that big storm in the Bering Sea.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.